Thank you, Jinsheng, and indeed, thanks to all of the panelists today. I hope you'll agree this has been a really highly informative session, and I'm looking forward to our panel discussion now. So while we get this set up, I'd like to give you a final opportunity to submit any questions that you might have, either from any of our previous presenters. If we're now ready to move into the panel session, I have the first of our questions, which I'm going to direct to Nick. Nick, of all of the companies that you have witnessed successfully crack the Singapore market, in your experience, both within InvestNI and previously, what are the hallmarks of a successful strategy in this market?
Thank you, Carrie. I think a number of things. If I start first of all with knowledge and education, to understand the market, understand the place of the product or services and the company within the market is paramount. There's no point in starting a journey if you don't know where you are and you don't know where you want to go. So I think that's the first part. So research and education would be where I would start. Obviously, any company undertaking a journey to somewhere like Singapore from Northern Ireland, which is 11,500 kilometers away, the capacity, the capability, the resources of that company, they have to be committed to that journey. So once they've done their education, it's commitment. I think then it's commitment then to make the first dollar. When I started my company in 2004, our key focus was to make the first dollar, then make the 10th dollar, then make the 100th dollar. So it's slowly building up that reference of sales and slowly getting those export wins. Then that affords the opportunity when you get cash flow, then to go after the more marquee wins and get great reference case studies. And I think then I'm going back to what I said earlier. I mentioned the nail it and scale it. I do very much believe in that. So quality reference case studies enables that to happen. Singapore is a wonderful market to enter, but it's actually quite complex. Northern Ireland companies are a little bit fortunate that Invest Northern Ireland does so many things under the one umbrella. We do training, we do talent, we do funding, we do domestic assistance, we do export, we do we do property solutions. In Singapore, it's slightly more fragmented, and there's a number of export development or economic development agencies that Invest Northern Ireland and Sareth and I and Jin Chung can connect with and reach out to. So I think the next thing that's important is stakeholder engagement. So with stakeholder engagement comes excellent marketing and communication. It's not something that comes natural to a lot of Northern Ireland companies, but we are getting better at it. And certainly it's something in Asia Pacific that Invest Northern Ireland is very committed to. Perhaps I've said enough about that, Kerry. I would like to redirect the question to Sareth to comment a bit more on that.
Sure. Maybe just to add on to what Nick has said, I think in our experience, having dealt with various companies, there are another two things, and Nick has already mentioned this already. One, look, it takes time to make headway in the market. So clearly, patience is really a virtue, considering the fact the business culture here in Singapore and so forth. So it takes time to make headway, and companies have to be patient. But I think the other thing is this. Don't look at Singapore just for the sake of Singapore. Look at Singapore as your largest strategy for Asia. Let's take the fintech sector, for example. Singapore is ranked there after the US and the UK. So when companies look at this sector here in Singapore, they look at it from the standpoint that, look, if I can get a win here, or even just getting a client to adopt my solution here, it's about that reference which they can then take to the larger Asian market. Because look, if I can get this done in Singapore, I can get this done in Asia. And so I think it's that broader strategy of using Singapore as a reference for the customers in the rest of this region. So I think those are two other key things that I would mention as well.
Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think what Sareth has mentioned, I think, again, if I relate it back to my presentation on how Singapore sits within a larger region, again, let's be honest, our market's not very big. If you segmentize your market, if you can get 1 million customers, yeah, I think even the big telcos want to see how you can do that. But look at Singapore again, within the larger context of Asia, and even if you are not looking at Asia for that matter, look at it within the larger context of Southeast Asia. It's a huge market out there. Southeast Asia has the 4th most populous country in the world as well. So there is a huge market, but again, use Singapore as your test bed, use Singapore as your pilot. There are many regulatory sandboxes here. There are many platforms for you to tap on, which we are very welcoming for everyone to learn from each other from. And that's where you can go and look at, having attacked a 250 million person market in Indonesia, a 69 million people market in Thailand, and so on. So it's really, you have to look at Singapore within the larger context of the entire region in itself.
Okay, thank you for that, Junsheng. And actually, we'll just stick with you if that's okay. So a question here for you really, which is around the Switch Festival. And it's really, can you explain how Northern Irish technology companies could best utilize the Switch Festival to market their products to attendees? And related to that, could you tell us a little bit more about how the SSF Switch platform will enable attendees' interests to be matched to, say, Northern Irish technology solutions? And once there is a match, how those meetings will be arranged via the platform?
Yeah, so one big change that we have this year is really very much that it's virtual, so it's a lot more accessible. You don't have to fly 11,000 miles, is it? 11,000 miles down, so well, in essence, you save a lot of time, you save a lot of money in that end. So the virtual platform is something that we are currently finishing up the development on. So it's a brand new platform that we're going to be basing our event on. How you want to leverage of it is very much, please use the masterclasses, which I've talked about just now. Please use the workshops. Again, I relate it back to the previous questions. It gives you that context of how you can operate in Singapore or operate within the larger Asian region, because we are not only getting speakers from Singapore, we are getting speakers from the region, speakers from places like India, China, even speakers from Europe and the US to come in to share views across. So that's really getting a whole bunch of experts within a single platform. All you have to do is key in a username, a password, and you gain access to that. More than that, I think the platform will sort of give access to investors through this event, or rather through a series of events we call Deal Fridays. So let me explain the name. It's not going to happen only on Friday at the event, but throughout the year, we actually have, it came as a sort of a eureka moment with our boss. It was like, hey, people go drinking on Friday afternoons, right? Why don't we give them a deal session? And then we're like, oh crap, it's like 52 weeks. So last year we held 52 sessions, and I'm not even kidding. Unfortunately, no, because we wanted the drinks, but then people were saying, if you're drunk, you can't sign a deal. So the issue was, so we said, this is better than drinking, right? So you make a business deal, but we introduce investors to startups within certain sectors. So for example, if you are a startup in fintech, we'll invite the banks who would invest, we'll invite the VCs who would invest, we'll invite corporates who actually use all these fintech applications into that session. It's quite cozy, usually about 40, 50 people, whereby the VCs would have a one-on-one matching session with all the startups who are there. So this platform used to happen every Friday. We still have it once a month, but at Switch, it's going to happen throughout the entire Switch, where Switch Week, exactly, where we want to sort of match people with investors, both who are going in and out. So some of these investors are international investors. They're not just Singaporean or Singapore-based investors, just solely by the nature of the event, it being open internationally. So you might have an investor from the US, an investor from China, an investor from Indonesia, for example, coming in, and that's where you can pitch to them. More than that, so that's one matching component. The other matching component, which will also be very attractive, I would think, would be that business matching component. So what happens is, as a Switch participant, you actually have a list of companies of the other participants. Of course, you can't get the numbers and all, but through the platform itself, you can actually connect in with those people that could be interesting for you. And what you can do is really connect in with them, have a discussion with them, e-meet them for all you can, and then see what opportunities there are that both of you can actually work out. I think more than that, you can expect the same to be done onto you, because there will be corporates down there, there will be other government bodies, there will be also other research bodies who want to look at your solution. So those are some of the areas where I think participants can look towards. I think more than that, of course, if you exhibit or if you are really very much more into the event, those are also areas where we have built-in business matching, of appointment time, bookings. You can still exhibit like every exhibitor. So what happened, and I think this relates to the second part of the question, how is it going to look like? The whole UX, UI, think of it as you walking through an event itself, except that instead of walking, you're just moving your mouse and clicking. And how you can communicate via voice or via text. Of course, we want to look, of course, I would say communicate via voice is a lot easier, but it's about communicating or walking through, and you can look at what others are exhibiting on, what some of the initiatives that other governments are holding. I think Sarah was mentioning Project Ubin, which is a whole blockchain initiative done by the MAS. They will usually take an entire pavilion in a physical event, but what they have done here is take an entire what we call building. So if you're thinking of navigating through, right, you think of navigating around Singapore on a road, and then you see a Project Ubin type of building. So that's the kind of sort of I guess UX UI that we are looking at as well.
I think that's what we're looking at. So,
yeah.
so Invest Northern Ireland intend to have a digital building.
Cool.
And to house 10 Northern Ireland technology companies within that building to then socialize, to make the meetings, to receive meetings, and to attend workshops, the masterclass, etc. Sarah, if I sort of switch it a little bit to what you and what Invest Northern Ireland and Arisa intend to do around SFF Switch, and in terms of financial directory and that sort of thing. Have you have any other comments?
Sure. So, I mean, just to add on, so there's already going to be a sort of a business matching platform that's available to Northern Ireland companies through the Switch, through their participation at Switch. But at the same time, as soon as we can get Northern Ireland companies to sign up to be part of this digital building, we are also going to be curating a customized business matching program for companies that will be done concurrently with what the platform has to offer. So as part of our preparation for this, we've already gone out and identified key players within the fintech sector, whether it be with the banks or insurance companies, whether it's the bidders for the digital licenses. We've identified the key decision makers and so forth. So we hope that Northern Ireland companies that are interested in connecting with the various players here in Singapore will sign up quickly. And the reason why I asked that you sign up quickly is because something Jin Sheng has just mentioned. Remember last year, 60,000 attendees. So you can imagine the competition to get meetings. So the earlier you sign up, the earlier we can get started on setting up this business matching program for you.
Very good. And I think I'm getting it. Like this, the SFF Switch in a virtual environment appears to be actually a better way of doing an exhibition. Certainly for Northern Ireland companies than traveling all this way, you know, to sit in an exhibition hall. So it sounds very, very appealing to me, certainly. Kerry, I believe that you have a question from the audience.
Yes. So I'd like to ask a two-part question on behalf of one of our Northern Ireland tech companies that is a deep tech IoT company. And the two queries are, so firstly, and I think this is really more for Jin Sheng, maybe to start with. Firstly, how likely is it that Singapore VCs would invest in a UK startup, and what are the circumstances where that's more likely to happen? And related to that, how would a Northern Ireland technology company go about establishing tech partnerships with Singapore companies, and how would you advise that?
Right. So on the second question, sorry, on the second question, I think it relates to what Sarah has mentioned. It's all about business connections. immediately sign up for Sarah's platform, honestly, because it's all about getting the business connections, and this is the fastest way that we can do it, which is also one of the reasons why we came up with this whole Switch platform. Honestly, it started as an event, really just to showcase how great Singapore's ecosystem is within the region, what we've been doing across what we call the research, innovation, and enterprise space. But we thought, if you can showcase something, right, why not make it a bit more interactive, have some value extracted out of it. And it's really about using the platforms in order to get that business connections in that end. But for, let's say it's outside the platform, we still work very closely with companies like Sarah's company and Orisa to really help companies get more connections through that. And so if you think about it, there are, like we mentioned just now, 7,000 MNCs here. How are you going to hit the 7,000 MNCs? Well, one way is to go around knocking on their doors. Probably take you quite a long time, and I'm going to be very open here. But if you work through someone with all the connections already, or being able to scope out who are the relevant people for you and your business in the market itself to meet and to expand with, then I think it's something a lot faster, also a lot more targeted for that. On the first question, how are the VCs, how the VC scene in Singapore looking at UK companies? I would say that we do have a lot of VCs in Singapore. Not all of them are Singaporean, not all of them are homegrown. Actually, a large proportion of them are international VCs. Looking at the region, looking internationally from here, we have a number of regional VCs who have shifted their operations into Singapore solely because of international deal flow. So we have Indonesian VCs coming here. We have Thai VCs having an arm here, really because of Singapore's connectivity, looking at deals in Europe, in the Middle East. Strangely enough, also looking at deals in the US. We have VCs from the US coming into Singapore to look at deals at the US. So I always ask them why, and then they said sometimes they don't get the deal flow over there as well. So there are opportunities in that end. Again, it's an ecosystem where we want to learn from each other. Whether it's a Singaporean VC or a regional VC, there are investment opportunities. There are also a lot of big companies who are investors in themselves, whether they are with a corporate VC or they're just investing right off their balance sheet of the corporate. And for example, a big Singapore company like Capital Land, who is one of the biggest developers here, they have a VC arm and they are looking at international startups to invest in as well. Again, on the sectors, we do look at quite a number of sectors. We like to sort of look at what we call deep tech sectors, right? So to us, this encompasses your advanced manufacturing sectors, your healthcare, biomedical sciences sector, what we call urban solutions, water, renewable energy, sustainability sectors. But last but not least, we look at this whole chunk. In Singapore, we call them services and digital economy. It's very big, right? But what it refers to is AI, blockchain, fintech, and these are all key sectors that Singapore looks at. Like Nick mentioned, IoT as well, playing a very, very big big area in manufacturing with Industry 4.0 coming out as well. So definitely there will be opportunities in that end. So I would say, please do look. The opportunities are always there.
Fantastic, thank you. Nick, in the interest of time, would you like to bring our panel to a close now?
Yeah, I think it's been very entertaining and I think it's been very interesting. I'd like to thank the Northern Ireland companies and the people in Northern Ireland who've dialed into this webinar. I hope you've enjoyed it. Kerry's going to follow up with a call to action in terms of what are next steps. But Sarah, thank you.
Thank you for the invitation.
Working with you for many years.
Absolutely.
Xinxiang, a new partner, and thank you very, very much
you
for participating today. Tremendously interesting and a great sort of energetic and vibrant presentation on how we're going to approach Singaporean technology in the next few months and years ahead. So thank you very much.
Thank you. We also hope to see more Northern Ireland companies coming in to partner with the entire ecosystem in Singapore as well.
Super stuff. Kerry and everybody at home.
Thank you.
Cheerio and thanks.
So thank you very much, everyone. As you can see, our webinar is finishing now. I'd like to add my thanks to Nick, Sareth, and Jinsheng for participating today. We've tried to get through as many of your questions as we could, and we hope you find the session informative. If we weren't able to get to your question today, or if you would like some further information, please feel free to contact either Nick or myself, and we'll try to help you with that. We've recorded today's webinar and it will be available after the event. We'll be sending a link around to all attendees that registered. In terms of our next steps and our call to action, we will be sending out an expression of interest in relation to the Singapore FinTech Festival and Switch event shortly. So please keep an eye out for that, and we'd encourage an early sign up. Please ensure you sign up for InvestNI's 2-minute update email newsletter. That's at investni.com/newsletter. And we will be sure to be putting up all of our information in that. That's it for today's session. I'd like to thank you all for attending, and I hope you have a lovely day. Thank you. Bye.